Hi, hello, welcome back. I am going to be talking about what I will be reading in the month of October. So I have to give a bit of a disclaimer. It's going to be all over the place because I am trying to juggle between spooky season and there's a lot of fantasy coming out in November, and I want to have all of the stories fresh in my mind. So first I'm going to tackle my e-reads. I will be reading the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I have heard it is such a laugh riot. I'm really excited because I actually don't know much about it, but I saw it was available to rent on my library, so I have it. I am excited to read it. And next I will be reading Rebecca. So this is a classic Gothic novel, and again, I know nearly nothing about it, but I'm really excited to sink my teeth into it. And I have been really anticipating a lot of classic horror/Gothic novels for the month of October. Now, a lot of these I'm going to talk through we have seen before in a couple of hauls I did, but I have also picked up a couple of new books and new purchases. A couple of my pre-orders came in, so I'm just going to quickly zoom through those books that I have gone over and show you a couple of the newer books that maybe we haven't seen or that we didn't know I would be reading this month. So in no real order, besides I'm saving non-spooky books for last, we're going to dive right in. So first we have My Sister the Serial Killer. I have read this before. This is a reread. I really enjoyed it the first time. It was a lot funnier than I thought it would be. So I, as you can see, am currently reading it right now. Still enjoyed myself. I read it not too long ago, just a few months, so really enjoying it. Next, I am both embarrassed and excited to show you. Excited because it's The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. Embarrassed because it's a movie tie-in cover. Now I know some people love movie tie-ins. I hate those covers. I hate them. I'm not interested in them. I don't think they're creative, and oftentimes, I'm gonna be a bit of a snob here, I think the book is better than the movie. So why do I need an ode to something that was adapted from what I'm reading? I don't want that. And also, I have no interest in watching this movie, but this is the only copy that they had at the bookstore, and I really wanted to read it this month, and in lieu of just getting it on my e-reader, which also seemed to have the movie tie-in cover, I just bit the bullet. It was only about $10, so it's not the end of the world. If I see a different copy at a used bookstore at some point, I will probably replace it because I cannot explain how much I dislike movie tie-in covers. I'm just not interested in them. I don't know why they do. I do know why they do it. It's for book sales because people watch the movie and then they backtrack and watch the book. But for snobs like myself, I don't want this. But I will say, in saying that, I am a little chunk of the way through and really enjoying it. Also, if you notice my hair didn't change, it's because I'm filming this video right after I filmed my last one. And I don't apologize for it. I'm a working lady. I gotta squeeze in all the filming I can on my days off. Next we have Henry James, The Turn of the Screw. It does have a few of his other stories in here, but I did buy it primarily for that story. Very excited. I got it from my used bookstore, so the pages are all discolored. It smells like it's had a life before it found me, which is the best kind of used book you can get. Gently used, get out of here. I know some people like it. They're like, oh, it barely looks like this book has been cracked open. No, I want my book to look like it's lived. I don't even mind when people doodle in the margins. I want to know what other people thought. I want my book to have lived a very full life before it comes and it finds its forever home on my bookshelf. So I'm very excited to read this. You can also see I have started this one as well. Reading multiple ones at the same time is really spooking me out. I'm not gonna lie, I am kind of a little bit of a wimp when it comes to spooky novels. Spooky movies don't get me at all though. Most of the time I just find it so easy to disassociate that it is a movie and or that a character can very clearly get out of derived situations, whereas with books it's so easy for me to fall into the mindset of, oh my god, I can't get out. Shirley Jackson's what is it called? The Haunting of Hill House. It's such a good book. I own it. It's on my shelf somewhere, or my partner's reading it. I can't remember which. I really, really like it. I saw maybe 1 or 2 episodes of the show and absolutely hated it. I was like, this isn't even Shirley. What is this? Why did they just named the characters the same thing. It's not even about the same thing. But with spooky stories, I find it so easy to just get engrossed and get scared. And I love it. I'm loving my spooky month so far. Next, I have Grimm Fairy Tales. We all know it. We all love it. I'm just going to pick away at stories throughout the month. Probably in the mornings before I go to work, I'm just going to start reading a story at a time. Very excited. I have read a lot of these, but I haven't owned the collection. And I'm very excited. What a cute little cover. Next we have Nancor. I don't know much about this, and I've already talked about it when I hauled it. I don't really know what this is about. Besides, I do think it is vaguely about trauma. Some sort of family thriller horror. Our protagonist finds a secret that has been dwelling within their family and horror ensues. That's basically all I know, but that's all I need to know because it's October, baby. Next, we have Only the Good Indians. This one, I know from the synopsis, is going to scare everything in me. So I am saving this closer to the end of the month as we get closer and closer and closer to Halloween. I'm currently in Canada, so, but make no mistake, I'm from the States, I'm from the South. Thanksgiving here is Monday. It's like in early October, and then they have Halloween. I'm American, so Thanksgiving will forever be in November in my heart, but that does give me the sort of advantage of a long weekend. But in saying that, a lot of people haven't even started their spooky time because they get through October Thanksgiving and then move on. They get like 2 weeks before Halloween. Absolutely not. For that fact alone, we keep Thanksgiving in November. That being said, Only the Good Indians, or The Only Good Indians, I'm really, really excited to read because I have already heard great things about this and how scary it is. I have heard from a couple of people that it does deal with a bit of gruesome scenes, which I am a bit squeamish if it deals with animals, not so much people, but if it deals with animals or children, I am a bit squeamish. And I have heard that it deals with animals, but I'm also quite gullible, so when people tell me anything, I just believe it, and they know I really don't like animal gore. So hopefully somebody was just teasing me, but I don't think so. And there's deer on the front, so I don't think so, but absolutely willing to give it a try. Next, we have the Mexican Gothic. So this has already been a staff pick at my work. Again, we love to support Latina in my household, Latin anything to be honest. So of course, this is going to be on my TBR. Full disclosure, I have read it. Full disclosure, I enjoyed it so much I'll be reading it again this month. And if you get a chance, be sure to grab this. Gorgeous cover, really great writing. It's the same author who wrote Of Jade and Shadow. Gods of Jade and Shadow. It just shows the diversity of this author and her writing style because I found both completely enrapturing. I found both very convincing, and I'm excited to see what other people really think about it because I have seen this is on a lot of TBRs for this month. I'm assuming a lot of people were saving it for October and for spooky season. Take a shot every time I said spooky in this video, but I'm assuming that's why a lot of people have saved it. So I am excited to see what people think about it, especially if they've read Gods of Jade and Shadow, to be able to compare and contrast the writing and the story. I really think she was able to capture both stories very well and not really put herself in a box in terms of writing. So I'm really, really excited, and I'm going to be following this author probably forever until she decides to stop writing or my eyes give out. Next, almost in an experimental way, I'm going to be reading It by Stephen King. So here's the thing with the King and I don't like Stephen King really, except I liked one of his books. I was trying to discuss it with my family on Skype the other day. I couldn't remember what it was called, but then a guy I work with just happened to mention it and drop it the other day. Misery. I really, really liked Misery. I thought it was not really a great horror novel, to be honest, or a thriller. I thought it was funny. I thought he played a lot with himself as a writer and fandoms and how interesting it was. I enjoyed it. It, I read a long time ago when I was younger, and I did not like it. I know there is a big movement in the literature community for representation and for appropriateness when dealing with cultures and genders and sexuality, which I think is phenomenal. Before that movement, there was a lot of disturbing content that went unaddressed within the community, it being one. I think prior to a lot of our generation and Generation Z, a lot of things were able to slide just under the umbrella of shock value. And when you come from a certain background or a certain community or a certain sexuality, whatever your experience is, if you don't fit a certain mold, it's hard to just chalk it up to shock value, and it comes across more of an attack. So I'm speaking in a lot of generals because I don't want this just to fall on Stephen King's shoulders, because I don't think that's fair. I think it was more common and more widely accepted to put things into your novels and into all forms of media that were inappropriate, and it wasn't an appropriate kind of shock value. It was shock value that was appropriate for one kind of person, oftentimes that kind of person being white male. So I know I'm opening a bit of a Pandora's box, but like I said, I've really been exploring modern and contemporary writing, whether it be fantasy, science fiction, general fiction, and of course nonfiction. And it has never been clearer or more eye-opening to see just how willing the world was to brush aside certain communities and certain people just for shock value or shock humor, whatever the umbrella was at the time. Now, when I read this when I was quite a ways younger, I'm 27 now, I was disturbed. Not in the way you should be, not in the way that a horror book should explore, and there was no nuance to what King was writing. I was disturbed in the way of there was a lot that was handled in this story, and it was handled very, very poorly. So this I'm more rereading now that I'm older, now that I can sort of better understand and separate and distinct different times we are in and different generations' acceptability of certain things. I want to re-delve into the story and explore what Stephen King was trying to do, giving the benefit of the doubt of how society, I don't want to say contempt, but the contempt that a lot of big publishing houses had. It's very clear for certain communities. I sort of am doing a bit of a sociological rediving into it, which is one of his more prestigious, well-known, popular novels. But I remember being younger and it really upsetting and disturbing me, the content that was in it. So I think it will be really, really interesting to, now that I'm older and probably not wiser, slightly wiser, explore that. So I'm not really reading this with any kind of hope that I will enjoy it more. I'm more reading this with the thought and notion in my head of, we are in a different time now, and if we pretend that the past didn't happen, like, I own Harry Potter, and I know that's a can of worms that I don't feel like opening right now, because I think my stance on Harry Potter, and I shouldn't say Harry Potter, my stance on calling it what it is, J.K. Rowling, is probably pretty apparent based on the values that I hold. Similarly, this was on my shelf, and I think if we do not confront what was acceptable and maybe what our parents' generation found acceptable, or grandparents' generation found acceptable, why was H.P. Lovecraft so beloved and still beloved and held up as acclaimed literature? If we can't confront and self-realize and take note of the past that I think a lot of people are trying to run away from, and when it goes unacknowledged, it's essentially saying that it is okay to unacknowledge wrongs, and certain people don't deserve an apology or an acknowledgement that they have been mistreated. And that is what I have to say on that. That's just some musings. Okay, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, V.E. Schwab's new book. I have the dust jacket up there, but I'm super anal, and I take the dust jackets off when I am reading them, and clearly I'm reading this one. It is my commuter book to work. I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying it so much that I've taken it out of its commuter pouch from my backpack, and I am going to be reading it at my leisure this weekend. I am going to commend V.E. Schwab, because one of the bigger issues I've had with Schwab's writing is I sometimes do feel that her characters fall a bit flat for me. Not in the sense of like they flatline and they're boring, but I do think sometimes I think her characters tend to fall into kind of like the Mass thing. I shouldn't say that. No, not to that extent. But they do fall into a bit of a stereotype, and there's no real dimension to them. Whereas this seems to be an exploration and a book that is solely propelled through the exploration of one character and her emotions and what she's gone through. So I do have high hopes for this. I am already on page 71, and I got it the day before last. I haven't done any reading, so that's 70 pages that I read yesterday. And I'm really, really enjoying it so far. And I have really high hopes for this. I hope it doesn't let me down. I hope. And next we have book 1 in the Mistborn trilogy. I am on page 60. I am really liking it. I also just realized I'm in the middle of like 5 books, but hey ho, it happens. They're all pretty different. I don't really have a problem reading multiple books at once. It's kind of like people that watch multiple TV shows different days of the week. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh, I just want pure fantasy, and I'll pick this up. Or I say, I just want beautiful writing, and I pick up Addie LaRue. Or I say I want something spooky, and I pick up The Invisible Man. So I'm rereading Mistborn trilogy this month. God help me, we'll see. I have a lot to read this month, and I think it's already like the 9th or 10th when I'm filming this. And I finished like 2 books. but I have high hopes. I always finish the month strong. And finally, I will be rereading the Stormlight Archive. I have book 1 here. I just read the prologue the other night after I was closing, and I have book 2 and 3 on audio. I think it'll be really fun to explore the Stormlight Archive through audiobooks this time. I did reserve The Way of Kings, but it was just such a long waiting line. I don't think it's going to come in on time. And for the Stormlight Archive, I plan for this to transition into next month. I'll probably finish 1 and part of Words of Radiance, and probably the second half of Words of Radiance and Oathbringer for the month of November before book 4 comes out. I don't want to talk about it. I'm too excited. Yeah, we gotta leave it there. So that's what I'm going to be reading this month. I'm really excited to see how other people are going to be balancing their month, because I know a lot of readers I follow are also into a lot of fantasy and books that are, oh my god, I just saw it over here. I'm also going to be reading Flashback, Keepers of the Lost Cities, because book 8, my pre-order, came in, and book 8.5 gets released in the month of November. So I need to read this one as well. So I can read this one at the top of the month. There we go. This one at the top of the month, and then be ready for book 8.5 when it comes out. But, not gonna lie, my priority lies here. Rereading the Cosmere universe. Getting my mind right back to it. I will say, I did just finish Oathbringer, so it's not like I forgot. It's mostly an excuse to reread it. But I will be reading book 7, Flashback, and Keepers of the Lost City as well. I'm so excited, and I hope you guys have a great reading month for the month of October. If you have any suggestions of spooky books, I'll squeeze it on. A lot of my spooky books are quite small, and I will say that to horror, or maybe I've just been reading foolishly large books, because I will say books that are over 1,000 pages is what I consider a large book now. Books that are 700 and under, I'm like, I can do that. Okay, so that is it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have a fantastic reading month, and I will see you next time with a new video.